Hi, welcome back to my channel, Worm's Eye View. I'm Pippa and I do book hauls, I do reading vlogs, I do reading write-ups or read-ups or whatever they're called. Bit of booktube. I do childminding and early years play, ideas, activities. I do all sorts of bits. Check out my videos. Lots of things to look at. Okay, so I'm going to go through what I have been reading in the last, I'm going to say 2 weeks, because we went away on holiday and I was currently reading Beautiful Broken Things at the time. My view was I would have read a lot more than this, but we had a death in the family, unfortunately, after we got back off holiday, and it just kind of took over everything, and my mind was elsewhere, if I'm honest. Although reading has really helped to distract, I haven't read as much as I'd like to. So anyway, let's start with this one, Beautiful Broken Things. So this one says, Caddy and Rosie have always been inseparable, but that was before Suzanne. Now Caddy wants to be more than just the quiet one. She wants something to happen. I was brave. Suzanne is trying to escape her past and be someone different, someone free. She was reckless. But sometimes downward spirals have a momentum of their own. We were trouble. And no one can break your heart like a best friend. So this one, I believe is, yes, so it's a children's book, but it's sort of a older, it's a teens book, I guess. And like I said, I will read anything. And the nice thing about some sort of teen books is that we've all been there, so we can all kind of relate, although maybe these are set sort of in modern time. It makes me sound ancient, doesn't it, like in modern time. Obviously when I was growing up, we didn't have the mobile phones and we didn't have the internet and all that kind of stuff. So by modern times, I mean, obviously there are differences and things that I did, not necessarily, but teenage is teenage, and we all go through the same sorts of things, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, this is a really lovely book. It kind of touches on the three's a crowd, having a best friend for a long time, and then sort of the third wheel comes in. But it also touches on mental health. It touches on issues that children, teenagers, adults go through. How I'm sure, in our teenage years, as we were becoming adults, we had ideas of what we wanted to do. We made some poor decisions. We made some great decisions. We kind of felt like we wanted to break out of the mould maybe a little bit. I can't really explain it and do it justice. It's definitely a good read. The main character is this Caddy, and Rosie is her best friend, and actually they go to different schools. So Caddy goes to a private school, Rosie goes to a local school, and it's actually Rosie who meets Suzanne. And Suzanne has had a difficult past. She comes from an abusive home, and it's her trying to fit in. But she's lost all interest in even trying, because in the past, trying hasn't stopped the abuse. Doing well at school hasn't changed anything. So you've got the kind of rebellious teenager streak going through there, going out at night, sneaking out, smoking, drinking. I'd say drugs. She only goes as far as a little bit of weed, but it's the slippery slope that some teens get in with the wrong crowd, that kind of thing. And it's how the three of them, how their friendship works, and how they support Suzanne, and it does touch really well on, I think, almost like an enabling in mental health issues. So you've got one friend who comes across quite harsh, but actually she's telling her things she needs to hear, and the other friend that almost enables her because she wants to be kind and help her. And in some way she's not helping her, she's enabling her to continue on her destructive path. So I think that's probably enough said about that one. Definitely worth a read. This is by Sarah Bernard, so definitely check that out if you see it anywhere. Okay, this one is by Trisha Ashley, The Little Tea Shop of Lost and Found. Okay, Alice Rose is a foundling discovered in the Yorkshire moors above Haworth as a baby, adopted but then later rejected again by a horrid stepmother. Alice struggles to find a place where she belongs. Only baking, the scent of cinnamon and citrus and the feel of butter and flour between her fingers brings a comforting sense of home. So it seems natural that when she finally decides to return to Haworth, Alice turns to baking again, taking over a small run-down little tea shop and working to set up an afternoon tea emporium. Luckily, she soon makes friends, including a Grecian godlike neighbour who helps her both set up home and tries to solve the mystery of who she is. There are one or two last twists in this dark fairy tale of Alice. This is going to annoy me now. Obviously didn't affect me buying it, did it? Not being able to read that last bit. But it'll annoy me if I can't tell you the whole thing. Oh, I've ripped it. A dark fairy tale of Alice's life to come, but can she find her happily ever after? Okay, so this is a story of a girl who's never really fitted in. She was adopted as a baby and had a loving father, but her mother not so much. And unfortunately, her father dies when she's in her teens, and her adoptive mother, is really not interested. I think sees her as a bit of a pain in the neck, really, and kind of disowns her. So she's wandering. She has a lovely friend who she grew up with and whose family have always sort of seen her as one of them. She moves down to the coast and tries to set a life up down there, which is where she finds, I think, if I remember right, finds her love for baking. It goes through a couple of her relationships, a couple of, to give you a background of what she's going through. Basically, wherever she ends up, she just doesn't really fit. She never feels at home. Her relationships, for one reason or another, come to an end. She does meet a lovely lady on her first night in Cornwall, who I think becomes like a surrogate mother to her. And thankfully that relationship sticks. But she's a bit of a loner and never feels like she finds her home until she decides to go back to Yorkshire, which is where she was born. She finds out that some of the info given to her by her dad was not entirely truthful. He kind of fairy taled her birth and what have you, to hide the fact that she was pretty much abandoned and left for dead as a baby. And so while she's in Yorkshire trying to set up this tea shop, she wants to have a last-ditch attempt at trying to find her family and to try and find some links. But she does find a family. She does find a lovely family. And they are amazing to her. May not be her family, but that, I guess that means that, blood doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be blood related to be your family. She finds these people that accept her for who she is, and really kind of welcome her into their home. So this is a really lovely story. There are twists. You think, it's being told by two perspectives through the whole story, and you really think you know where it's going. You really do, and you're like, and then right in the last few pages, it twists, and you think, oh my god, I had no idea that was coming. So although you make a link partway through the book, and you do realise who her dad is partway through the book, the rest of it comes as a bit of a shock. So, really enjoyed that book. It's quite a thick one. Went through that in about a week, dipping in and out, but I really enjoyed it, and it was one that I could really get into, really engrossed in. Okay, this was a really quick read that I picked up a couple of days ago. This is called Storm Swept. Again, it's a young adult's book. It's sort of a teens book, but again, they're really nice for kind of quick, easy reads. So this says, dive into the depths of Ingo. Morveran lives with her parents and twin sister Jenna on an island off the coast of Cornwall, circled by the sea except at low tide. One day, Morveran finds a beguiling teenage boy half buried in sand after a storm. Going to his rescue, she's shocked to find that he is not human. Okay, so this, I wasn't sure what to expect when I found it. And I can tell you, because you work it out even before she finds out, like in the first few, like that far into the book. But she finds a mer boy. And I wasn't expecting mermaids. I'm not really sure what I was expecting. But it is, again, another book, I suppose as a lot of these teens are, about not feeling like you fit in and trying to find your place in the world. Your history, your family ties, what's important to you. And this is about her relationship with her twin sister and her relationship with the sea. And it's lovely. There are others in the series, so you've got these here, other titles in the Ingo Chronicles. This, I mean, I read this as a standalone, and I don't necessarily feel like I would need to read any more. It's not like it carries, well, I mean, I'm sure it does carry on. I'm sure the story does carry on through these books, but I don't feel like it was left on a cliffhanger that I would have to go and read another one straight away. So, yeah, a really lovely story. Really, really worth, as a quick read, definitely pick that one up. And this one here is the one I'm currently reading. I am that far through. Love the cover. I actually picked up another book by the same lady. Can't remember what the book was called, but it was a light blue sort of sea effect, the same gold circles, and then it had dark blue instead of this purple black colour. It had sort of blue sort of sea effect on the pages. So I'm going to look out for more of her books because they are just stunning. Definitely drew me to want to read them. And this is called The End of Mr. Y by Scarlett Thomas. And it says here, when Ariel Manto discovers a copy of The End of Mr. Y in a second-hand bookshop, she can't believe her eyes. She knows enough about its author, the eccentric Victorian scientist Thomas Loomis, to know that copies are exceedingly rare and some say cursed. With Mr. Y under her arm, Ariel finds herself swept into a thrilling adventure of love, sex, death and time travel. Okay, so I have small ideas about where this book is going. It dips into the actual story. So this, I like the way this is written because it's written as a regular book, but then we have inserts of this book that she has picked up called The End of Mr. Y. And it's written in a more Victorian language and in a more Victorian way of speaking, which I think is really clever to have a writer who can, dip into different styles of writing convincingly. The other thing I'm enjoying about this is it goes quite deeply, not deeply, not in a confusing way. It touches on lots of scientific theories. So I can never say Schrodinger's cat. You know the one I mean. I can never say it. The luminous ether and light speed and string theory and all those kinds of things. So it kind of opens up your eyes in a way that is not confusing. You don't have to be a physics genius to get these things, because it just touches on them in a way that you can hopefully understand. Sorry, I just had to shut my bedroom door because my washing machine is on its spin cycle and I think the bearings are on their way out, so it was getting very noisy. Anyway, yes, so it dips into science in a really interesting manner and explains it in ways that are easy to understand. So that's a nice bit about the book. So you're learning something, useful as you go along. I think it's going to be great. Like I said, I don't know where it's going at the moment. It's basically anybody who reads this book, The End of Mr. Y, not this book, the book in the story, or at least I hope that's the case, is cursed. So yeah, it better not be this book, is cursed, and they all die. So the fact that she's reading this book kind of leads me to think that, yeah, something interesting is going to happen. And I don't think we've reached any kind of time travel yet, but who knows. But yeah, it's interesting about her life, you know, how she's grown up, who she is, the choices she's made, you know, her interests. It's just, I'm finding it really interesting. I'm really enjoying it. Definitely worth picking up. I'm not going to be disappointed by this one, I don't think. Like I said, I've got that far through. Where are we? What, a third of the way through, I think. I only started this yesterday. So I think in another couple of days, that'll be done and dusted, and I'll probably start on her other one. Cool, so that is what I am reading at the moment. If you've read any of them, let me know if there's any that you would recommend that I would read by same authors, or, you know, anything that you think from what I've explained there, kind of described there to you, that you think I would find interesting, then leave me a comment, because I am always looking for new books to read, and recommendations are always great, because you could never tell when you pick up a book off the bookshelf. And I do tend to go a little bit by covers, and I know you shouldn't, but hey, you know, that's what draws us to the book, really, isn't it? Unless we're told about a book specifically by someone else, you know, I'm always drawn by the covers. So, subscribe, like, comment, all the usual, and I will do another book review next week. Let you know what I've been reading. Bye.